Hello, Star Wars Indiana here with another episode of Star Wars Alternate History. I'm finally back, so let's get to it. What the question for today is: what if Darth Maul did not kill Qui-Gon Jinn? Now, what I'm going to simply tell here is a narrative of what I would think would likely happen. There's no several different possibilities or anything. If you think there's something different that could happen, post it in the comments. But I simply went through, wrote my own narrative and opinion of what would occur. So, first off, Qui-Gon Jinn would kill Darth Maul. With Obi-Wan's help, of course, but Qui-Gon himself becomes more revered. Qui-Gon was already respected Jedi, yet Qui-Gon also fought with differences between him and the Jedi Order. This would give Qui-Gon more influence, therefore making him more revered because he defeated a Sith. However, Obi-Wan Kenobi wouldn't be as revered or whatnot for killing Darth Maul himself. Darth Maul would also not necessarily, if he were to survive like he did in the actual canon timeline, wouldn't necessarily hold a grudge against Obi-Wan, but instead the grudge would be held against Qui-Gon. Now let's move on. Obi-Wan Kenobi would still be promoted. This is because Obi-Wan Kenobi is at the right age to be promoted and also helps defeat a Sith. The fact that Obi-Wan helps defeat a Sith, whether or not he defeated the Sith himself or simply helped, still proves ground that Obi-Wan is a strong candidate to become a full-fledged Jedi Knight. So, Qui-Gon then would become Anakin's master. Obi-Wan would not be Anakin's master. Now, in some timeline, there could be the possibility that Obi-Wan Kenobi is still Anakin's master. But in my timeline, I see it most likely, since Qui-Gon was the one advocating for Anakin to become a Jedi, he would still advocate for that. Now, however, it'd be more difficult for Anakin to be accepted as a Padawan of Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon's death is what helps propel Anakin to being allowed to join the Jedi Order. Obi-Wan would likely go 1 to 2 years without Padawan before finally choosing Padawan, as I would think many Jedi Knights seem to do. At least if I was a Jedi Knight, I'd wait after getting a few years of individual experience and working with other Jedi Knights under my belt first, so that I would have a little bit more wisdom to pertain and be a little bit more individualistic, separated from a master's work. And I would see Obi-Wan Kenobi doing this, unlike in the actual timeline where he takes Anakin up as a Padawan right after Qui-Gon's death, after he's promoted. Now, Qui-Gon would be tempted to the dark side when Count Dooku betrays the Jedi. So in this timeline, Count Dooku still betrays the Jedi, and I would think this would happen in nearly any timeline, except for a timeline considering the fact that somehow Dooku doesn't. Why would Qui-Gon be tempted to the dark side? Now, for those of you that don't know, Qui-Gon was Count Dooku's apprentice. The fact that not apprentice, his master, sorry, I worded that incorrectly. Anyways, Qui-Gon was Count Dooku's apprentice. So, the fact that he was the Padawan to Dooku when Dooku was in the Jedi Order puts a lot of sway of what Count Dooku does over Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon would become deeply troubled by Count Dooku's turn. Yoda himself was deeply troubled by Dooku turning. Now, you'd never see Yoda turning to the dark side because of this, but Qui-Gon was more likely. Qui-Gon is more individualistic a Jedi and was more likely to rebel against the Jedi Order. You'll see this come up in some other things I mentioned later. But he would at least be tempted to the dark side. I don't necessarily think Qui-Gon would turn to the dark side, as you would see with some of my later predictions. Uh, being trained by Qui-Gon would also cause Anakin to be more anti-Jedi Council as this behavior is promoted. Now, in the actual timeline, Anakin is a anti-Council Jedi Council sort of Jedi. Now, he does agree with them on some things, but he often separates himself and takes his own path against their opinion, especially during the Clone Wars. I would think the fact that Qui-Gon is his master, apart from Obi-Wan, who was a huge supporter and often tried to go by the book, would promote this behavior in Anakin. Because Qui-Gon himself was more off the book character who didn't necessarily agree with the Jedi Order, giving Anakin some more, instead of putting him down for these behaviors, would promote these behaviors in Anakin. So then when would Qui-Gon die? Because I think this would happen. Qui-Gon would likely die during the Clone Wars or Order 66. First off, Qui-Gon's an old Jedi. For a human, at least. He may be able to live... I think it'd be unlikely he lives past Order 66. Most Jedi die during Order 66, except for a few. It's possible Qui-Gon escapes Order 66, but I see this rather unlikely unless somehow Dooku told him about it as a way of protecting his old Padawan. I don't know. Anyways, he would be dead by the end of the Clone Wars, most likely. Many Jedi also died throughout the Clone Wars, and I think Qui-Gon could have easily become one of those Jedi. So now let's put some more focus on what Obi-Wan would be like if, with the separation between him and Anakin. In the actual timeline, Obi-Wan becomes not only a sort of father figure to Anakin, but a best friend to Anakin, a brother to Anakin. And this relationship would never formulate, and Obi-Wan would likely not even be as close to Padme if they didn't have this close relationship between Obi-Wan once being Anakin's Padawan. So the encounter on Mustafar, where Obi-Wan is encountering Darth Vader, the new Darth Vader, would likely never happen. Would Padme still rush off to Mustafar? Yeah, but she would live. She'd still be heartbroken. But she'd likely live through it, I would say, because Obi-Wan's not there to make Anakin think she betrayed him. So, furthermore on this, Obi-Wan still survives Order 66, either way. Obi-Wan would later go to Utapau, where he would be sent, and he would survive it just the same way we saw in the movies. He would likely be protector of Luke Skywalker on Tatooine. If Padme were to survive, she'd likely go into hiding from Vader. There's still the possibility Padme dies. Anyways, that's what likely would happen. Now let's look at some more stuff with Qui-Gon. First off, Qui-Gon will likely facilitate Anakin's fall to the dark side. The fact that Qui-Gon promotes this independence in Anakin, is what allows him to turn to the dark side in the first place. And so this would simply promote it and allow it to foster more easily in Anakin. Second, Qui-Gon would likely undergo investigation when Count Dooku became a separatist. It's simple because Count Dooku was once his master. You have to make sure Qui-Gon wasn't corrupted by these same ideals. And Qui-Gon, if you watch the Clone Wars, you also learn that Qui-Gon was in the middle of Force Ghost training. If Qui-Gon lived, he would complete this Force Ghost training and possibly pass the knowledge on to others. So Qui-Gon becomes a fully trained Force Ghost, able to communicate with others in death, like Obi-Wan and Yoda and Anakin did at the end of Episode 6, and like Obi-Wan did several times throughout the original trilogy. So this is what I believe would be the narrative if Qui-Gon were to live and kill Darth Maul. Are there some question marks? Sure, Darth Maul lives and tries to take revenge on Qui-Gon. But at the same time, I think there are some things that are not question marks, such as the fact Anakin would likely be more independent and would more easily fall to the dark side and would not develop a close relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi. They'd simply be good friends. So this is the narrative that would occur. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Glad to be back at it. Leave your comments below for future episode topics. And this is Star Wars Indiana. See you later.